Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me on a Thursday. It feels kind of weird at 5:30 too, so I screwed up with you on my time and my day. Amber launched a couple of pretty cool new red light lamps this week. So the launch has been happening on Tuesdays. And if you're not a member of the Lifepro VIP group, you may or may not be aware of those launches. There's some perks to being a member of the group there. So check that out if you're not a member. I will, at the end of the live, drop some links how to get there if you're following me from Lifepro's main page. If you want to ask me a question, today we're going to be talking about different vibration plate movement types. There's been lots of questions. There's been a new product, and I think it's time to, for some, do a bit of a refresher, and for many of you, just sort of explain the differences once and for all. So I'm just going to share this. If you'd like to ask me a question, be sure that you are watching me live on the main Lifepro fitness page, and I will see those comments come through. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Got some visual aids today. There. No, just a second. Okay. Okay, so if you are joining me, hello. I see some faces starting to pop up on I think there's about a 20-second to 1 minute delay from what comes out of my mouth, or if you type a comment. So please be patient with me there. If you are joining me today, I'm going to open up comments now. Somebody please say hello and let me know that you can see and hear me on the other end, and I'll start my ramblings. Ping, ping, I'm seeing folks log in now. Okay. I want to make sure I've got my screen going legibly. Oh, good. We're not backwards. Okay. I posted a link today in the event it's chilly today in my basement. I posted a link today to a previous session that I had done regarding frequency and amplitude and a lot of the terms I'm going to be rambling about today. I've just put my sweater on backwards, live on camera. For those of you that, maybe are looking at research, or someone has offered you research, be cautious when you're researching online. There is more than one thing in the math department as far as how these machines move, the way they move, what the settings are. And, very often if you're offered a singular number or a singular comment, it can be misleading because there's usually more than one ingredient in the recipe of overall better health. Okay, so hello, Reverend Pam. Hello, I know what you meant. Hi, Irene. Good morning from New Zealand. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. I'm assuming you can see and hear me, or I would be getting other types of comments. So I'm going to get started. I've got a few different vibration plates here, and as the market evolves and as the popularity of these machines evolves, there's more and more choice coming out, and it becomes kind of confusing as far as, what should I get to treat this? And sometimes many of you put a lot of credit into your vibration plate, and it helped me with this, or it helped me with that, or I read somewhere that it fixed this or it fixed that. And what I want you to sort of think simplicity today, and just remind you that a vibration plate, regardless of how it moves, which is a little bit more about what we're going to talk today about, regardless of how it moves, the benefits are very similar to the benefits of being active. But for many of you, you lack the ability, maybe due to a medical condition, maybe you're just out of shape, or you're coming from a place of, being inactive for a long time. A vibration plate is a way to get you moving and feeling better, first and foremost. And it can be an exercise alternative hack. What settings, what type of movement, what kind of plate you get for your personal situation, I'll be honest with you, it often evolves. The more that you kind of understand the basics and gain experience using a vibration plate, the more you may find yourself looking at a different model or a different movement type for variety, or maybe you find yourself using it more often, and maybe you want one at the office or perhaps in a different room in your home. So the basics of today that we're going to talk about are the movement types. And the most common, the main, the primary, if you've never watched any of my sessions before, is oscillating. Oscillating, I'm going to get my chair out of the way today. I've got a frog in my throat. I'm seeing comments. Hello, Teresa from New Jersey. Thank you for joining me. She capitalized New Jersey to make sure that I heard it. Okay, so allow me, I'm a little blinded with my lights today, but I want to make sure that you can see my ramblings past the shadows. So today I set up, I was moving equipment around all morning thinking, okay, I was going to set up this kind of movement machine and this kind, and sometimes it gets confusing because within the different types of plate movement, there are differences within them. So there's cars and there's trucks. Well, there's lots of different cars if you're just looking at a car, and there's lots of different trucks if you're just looking at trucks. It's not, there's one type of car and one type of truck. So movement type, what I've set up today, what is my trusty dusty Rumble X4D, because it has the three most commonly known movements that Lifepro refers to. But it'll also give me a good opportunity to give you some visuals and audio on the types of difference, some of the differences between the movements, which I wanted to talk about today. So if you have a Lifepro machine right now, with the exception of last week where there's a couple of new vertical machines launched, oscillating is the one movement that every Lifepro model offers. It mimics how we walk across the floor. Okay. So if I pretend like I'm just standing on the floor, my knees are unlocked. On the basic manual starting of any machine, it's going to move you in oscillating movement. Oscillating, to start the confusion when you're trying to research these damn things online, is they go by a lot of different names. Oscillating is also referred to as pivotal. It is also referred to as side alternating. Some refer to it as the teeter-totter or the seesaw movement. It mimics how we walk across that floor, that pivot, that tilt of one hip to the other. So for most people that try a vibration plate or have the opportunity to try a few different ones, oscillating is generally more preferred. It feels the best to most people. And the experience of using a vibration plate, just like a treadmill or an elliptical, if you don't really like it, or in this case, you don't like how the movement feels, you're probably not going to stick with it and use it regularly. So oscillating is the most preferred. It's the most widely available out there, partly for that reason. It is the most researched. It is the primary. If you ever hear anything about vibration plates, the NASA stories, the space stories, all of that started with oscillating movement. So there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of research, but it's hard to mimic the research until you have a little bit more understanding of the movement. So oscillating movement mimics how we walk. And you'll notice the very slow movement, the starting speeds, they're very wobbly. They're very choppy. You feel everything kind of shaking all over the place. And oscillating has a few more things that you can manipulate as far as settings. So they take a little bit longer to understand and be comfortable behind the wheel, if that makes sense. But once you kind of understand the two basic factors that you control, you can really customize your experience, whether you're using it for symptom management, or you just want to boost some energy, or maybe you want to recover after you worked out at the gym or something. So lesson number one is speed. How fast you're going feels different. A lot of the marketing out there would like you to believe that this number or this speed or this frequency is best for this. They haven't explored it all. Is there a certain type of exercise that is been proven 100% of in 100% of cases be better for weight loss than other types of activities? Again, this is activity, and how much movement and intensity you can tolerate is kind of a personal thing and depends on the exercise you're doing. So the really slow speeds, the really jarring, wobbly ones in oscillating are really good for balance and destabilization. And that's the little bit of research they've done. But when you're standing on something that pivots back and forth, and you'll find in my sessions, if you're watching me for the first time, I go off on these tremendous tangents because I bring a lot of experience. And sometimes, a 3 to 6 month study is impressive and it's a baseline, but I've had people on these machines 15, 20 years, and there's some common sense that I think will simplify the discussion for you. So you're tilting back and forth constantly when you're standing on this machine, and your body is kind of forever forced perpetually to stay upright and balanced. It doesn't really feel like you're working a whole lot, but your balance, your posture, there's all kinds of things, your circulation, your lymphatic movement, all these things are improving simply because you're moving in a natural way, the way that you were meant to be. If I were to give some pluses to oscillating movement, some of the advantages it has, it would absolutely be the fact that it gives you that balance and stability piece first. A lot of you are deterred, or if you are in a poor place of health and you lack balance and stability, it's hard to want to go do things. You're fearing of having a fall or making things worse. So seated or standing, just sort of playing around for a week or two, you will very quickly notice your balance improve, your stability, and your body awareness. There's all kinds of different things that people have commented to me. Moving on from speed, so before we increase speed, which I do prefer, starting out, unlike a treadmill or an elliptical, I prefer working with a bit of a faster speed. It's smoother, it's less choppy, but there's another lesson that you need to understand that's applicable to every vibration plate. So in oscillating movement, amplitude is the term referred to in studies that you'll notice, or displacement. That simply means intensity, how strong the movement or how far the movement is making your body respond. If you're standing really wide, and most of us do start wide because it feels like more's happening and it feels like the machine's working my muscles harder. No, you're just moving more, so things are shaking more, quite frankly. But if you're dealing with an arthritic knee, you got a new hip, you tend to have low back issues, standing wide is also more impact. And this is one of the reasons when you're starting out with an oscillating moving plate, it's kind of hard to understand all the nuances. And I recommend, instead of a starting point being wide feet, regardless of your level of health, give your body some time to get used to this and play around with the speeds and the programs more before taking on intensity. So keep the feet more naturally hip width apart. If you are dealing with health issues or fearful in any way for any reason, and this still feels like too much, the heel contact, the point of the heel is your point of contact on the plate, and that's what drives how much you're moving. So just bring the heels a little bit closer to the center, angle those toes a little bit, and you'll reduce the amount of movement. So now I'd like you, instead of the manual basic speed, let's bring it up. Bring it up. This one goes 60 speeds. So I'm going to bring it up to about speed 30. Okay. And you'll notice, because I'm not standing wide and it's this like horribly bumpy experience, naturally knees slightly bent to absorb the movement. it feels pretty good. It's kind of smoother when you get moving faster, and there's more movement going on. So if you're just using it for lymph, balance, those type of things, a minute or two on either movement style. So before you increase speed or take on some big combo program, the 2 lessons in oscillating: wider is more movement, closer reduces the amount or is less movement. So start more conservatively. The speeds on an oscillating plate, or the frequencies, if you're looking at the scientific terminology, are less than our next movement type, which is vertical. And immediately, a lot of you right now are going, well, then yeah, it's better. Faster doesn't necessarily mean better. We're talking 2 factors today: frequency or speed. The other was that amplitude. Wide was more. In vertical movement is a little bit of a different sensation than oscillating. It's not as common a movement. It's very rare that you're going to go, to the mall and find a vertical vibration plate that mimics a lot of what the research refers to back in the day. Verticals move, the surface of the plate moves completely up and down. They move faster, so they're moving more times per second. They feel more like vibration, but they move up and down much less. So even though right now I've got pulsation mode, which is a variation of vertical. Vertical is referred to a lot of different things, and sometimes it speaks to the specs or the performance characteristics, but sometimes it's marketing. So this is sometimes where the confusion comes in. But vertical, linear, lineal, there's a couple of variations you'll see like that. Triplanar is primarily up and down, a little bit of side bleed because of construction. So that's another story. Pulsation is very low amplitude vertical. So the amount I'm moving up and down right now is about 0.5 millimeter. Whereas in oscillating, on this same plate, on the outer edge, I'm moving about 8 millimeters. So the amount of movement in oscillating is much greater, much less. And the downside, I'll say it, I've used both of them side by side for years, and you do develop a preference or an opinion. That you have a little less room, in my opinion, to grow with verticals. The settings tend to be very limited in the range of how much you can manipulate the speeds. And the amplitude, the amount of movement, is not adjustable by you playing with foot or hand position. It's a preset single amount of movement. In some higher end, more expensive vertical plates, the amplitude may increase upwards of a mil, maybe 1.5 mil, and you might have a high-low setting. But the amount of money that you need to invest to get the amount of movement is far greater. The other thing that increases with amplitude on a vertical plate, to a degree with oscillating, but not to the same extent, is sound. Because with a vertical platform, you're moving more, faster, and it's a strictly up and down movement, the resonance that the machine creates tends to be louder, not only in the space of the room, but if you do have neighbors below you, and you're using a vertical plate versus an oscillating, there tends to be a different resonance of the sound depending on the floor below you. So one is not better than another. There's a big debate out there on the internet, and it's been this way for 20 years, where it's all, oscillating is better because blah, blah, blah. Vertical is better because blah, 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 blah. The truth is the better vibration plate movement type is the one that you prefer as a feeling, because as I said earlier, that's the one you're going to want to use regularly. If you don't like how it feels, don't matter. And I've had clients in my studio days, machines of medical grade, far louder and meaner than what you see in the average consumer living room these days. And most people, I would say 9.5 out of 10, do prefer oscillating for that natural movement. Vertical back in the day were very loud, very expensive heavy machines. A lot of their construction was steel. That's where a lot of their energy comes from. And over time, vertical plates have kind of been watered down to a degree in their intensity and in how strong they force the muscles to respond through that amplitude measurement. But plastics and less steel and making them more consumer friendly versus the true machines that they were in the research is, to a degree, I think, watered down. I don't want to say the benefits, but I don't think that some of the claims being made online are fair, if I were to be very, very blunt. So do your research. If you are considering vertical, it isn't just a number. If you're considering oscillating, it isn't just a number. They both have benefits, and just understanding to get equivalent, capability perhaps between an oscillating and a true vertical style plate. Better bang for your buck is always going to be oscillating. Every different movement type that a plate offers requires its own motor, its own components. So when we're looking at something like the Rumblex 4D that I'm demonstrating today, we've done oscillating, which is the teeter-totter, that side-to-side movement. That would be one motor, housing, and mechanics to make that type of movement work. The other we talked about, which is pulsation, a low amplitude version of lineal or vertical machines. It requires its own motor, its own housing, its own components. You get where I'm going? So the last combination, lateral movement, is sometimes referred to also as horizontal. It is, hang on, I got to get into it first. So lateral has a fair amount of movement, that amplitude, that intensity. I would call it a consumer invented movement. Lateral wasn't really one of the primary movements like oscillating was and vertical when these technologies emerged. It came after the fact, perhaps out of the factories. A lot of people like lateral. It is a good choice to consider if you have super, super big like head or teeth sensitivities, or if you prefer, you're just wanting some variety to mix things up. The lateral movement, as it sounds, the horizontal movement of the plate is sideways. The amplitude tends to be up there, 6 to 8 millimeters. But again, it is limited. You can't really change that setting, just like vertical. So it is a fixed thing. I would consider it more of a mix, an add-on, something to add variety, and which is going to lead us into the next set of terminology that I know confuses everybody. So we've covered oscillating. We've covered vertical. We briefly touched on lateral because it isn't, you can't go buy a lateral machine. It's not something I would recommend you consider if you had to consider one movement type, because, one movement type generally is going to mean you have options as far as smaller, more portable machines, more movements, more housing, more mechanics, more machine. So keep that in mind. But if you had to select just one, I absolutely would recommend oscillating. Again, it's more natural, it's more preferred, and bottom line, you can get more performance characteristics similar to lineal for less cost. It's just the way that they're made. They're less expensive to build, and they're more commonly available. So we're going to move on to one last topic, and I got to pull my notes out. Thank you so much. For those of you posting questions, be patient. I will get to them. And perhaps my next points will answer some of them. So, this is oscillating. This is vertical. This is lateral. What is the 2D? What is the 3D? What is the 4D? Well, it's very good marketing because, it sounds, if there's more dimension or there's more going on, I must be getting more benefit. The machine's not going to do all the work. I'm never going to lie to anybody and say that you just stand on this thing and you wake up 60 pounds lighter. Having some variety certainly is going to have some advantages as far as, being less bored. You'd have to be less creative. But eventually, for certain fitness benefits, you are going to have to apply yourself. Where the 2D, where the 3D, where the 4D comes in is only applicable to models that offer more than one movement. So 2D What is 2D? I'm glad you asked. 2D is actually singular movement. So in oscillating, where the two movements comes from, is I'm moving up and down, up and down. 1, 2, 1, 2, if that makes sense. 3D is adding another movement. So whether that's adding pulsation on, whether that's adding lateral on, whether you're doing pulsation and lateral on their own, it depends on the different movement varieties that your machine offers. So 3D means that you're adding two movements together. You're combining them. So 3 dimensions of movement. 4D, if you don't know where I'm going already, and I know I'm going to trip on my tongue, so I had to stop moving. It's too much brain-body coordination. My central nervous system is overloading. 4D, if you have one of the Rumblex models where it offers pulsation, lateral, and oscillating movement, you can combine all 3 movements into 4 dimensions. So you've got 1, 2 going on, you've got the vertical going on, and the lateral, all combining. Some call it spiral. There's all these different marketing terms out there, but you're combining different levels of movements. So just to recap, 2D means you've got 1 movement style, whether that's oscillating, vertical. 3D is you have 2 movements with your machine. Generally speaking, it will be the options all oscillating as the primary, the main movement. And then you'll have an option of an add-on, whether it's pulsation, maybe the turbo model, or the Hovert, which is oscillating and lateral. Then lastly, you get into 4D, which is the Rumblex, the Relaxa Vibe, the 4D, the Pro, all those ones that offer 3 different types of movement. And again, I want to stress, I'm not going to get into like 5,000 questions about, well, this one's better, and this guy told me this, and this one. I'm speaking from an honest place of experience as someone who has used both the main medical grade for 10 years before YouTube even really existed in my brain. So I'm coming from a place of experience. What you may read online, if it's quoting a number, a single number, or this is better than, or that one's harmful, any of that terminology, is it marketing or is it factual? And Lifepro has a really awesome return policy. It has a lifetime warranty. It's a physical experience. So you're going to drive yourself crazy trying to read all this crap. Apply what you've read. And as I said, if from a financial standpoint, you can only really afford a minimal machine, so go with a basic oscillating unit. I swear to you, it will be the best overall choice long term, as far as whether you're looking for symptom management or fitness. It's got enough customization to keep you busy for a very, very long time. And don't go too small if you're looking at primarily standing on a vibration plate. Right here, I've got stacked in the corner Lifepro's new Vibra voice model, which is a vertical machine. The other one underneath it is the new Vibra Pulse, which is an oscillating machine with the added on electromuscular stimulation therapy. These are about the same size. They move completely different ways, but if I'm some big 265 linebacker that's 6'4", you probably want something that's a little bit more accommodating to the size of your body and the exercises you plan on doing it on. I had an interesting comment yesterday, and I love it when people go with a second machine for whatever reason and have the opportunity to compare. So I had a new user, a new waiver owner that had upgraded from a waiver or to a waiver from the Mini. Well, the waiver's a little bit wider. So, you can stand wider. You get more movement because you can stand closer or wider. That changes the intensity. And she couldn't understand why it felt more intense on the waiver. Well, you had just a millimeter or 2 more movement. She was used to standing wide. So these are, if you're looking at doing fitness exercises, adding weight to your routine, things like that, regardless of what movement style you're considering, make sure you've got something that's big enough, not too tippy, you want to make sure that it's going to grow with you as well. So I have a few notes. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to move back here. And again, just to recap very briefly, because I don't know what I have here yet for questions, but one is not better than the other. But I do guarantee you, in my honest experience using both for almost 20 years now, by far more people prefer oscillating. It is more short-term, beneficial for many of the things that my clients are looking for: the balance and the stability, the fall prevention, the lymph. So many of you have sluggish lymph. You're trying to deal with symptom management, and oscillating just feels more natural. It's how we walk across the floor. And for many that I support in my private groups, it makes exercise possible. I really don't know how else to describe it. So whether, many of you are unable to move for great distances or long periods on your own, and the plate gives you the ability to do that, even if it's from a seated position. And that oscillating movement, again, you can change and customize the intensity depending on how you feel from day to day. So I have a preference. Absolutely. Again, I would recommend oscillating if you are considering only one type of movement. Some of the pros of vertical, I do like vertical for massage. So if you're just looking at using a machine to massage your calves, or, if you've got really severe neuropathy and you want something that really mimics a foot massager, but with a little bit more capability, a little bit more movement, vertical is a great choice for that. Long term, on the exercise front, you would need to invest in a much more expensive grade to get the equivalent of what a $200 to $300 oscillating with Lifepro would offer. It's just the way that they're made. It's the way that they move. It's the cost of building certain capabilities. So if you were wanting to add something for variety, you wanted a vertical plate. I will say that the new Vibra voice controlled plates, they have a lot of amplitude. I'm guessing in the half to a 1 millimeter amount of movement, but they're very low in how fast they move. So they actually feel completely different than pulsation. So they have vertical movement, but they move very slow with a lot of movement, whereas pulsation is much faster with a little bit of movement. And again, what feels best to you or your next door neighbor or your spouse at home, it really is a personal choice, especially when you get into that feel good and that symptom management stuff. It's, if it's a pleasant experience, if you enjoy it, you're going to be more likely to stick with it. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to scroll up here after I have a little slurp of caffeine. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. So hello again, Rev Pam. Irene, so awesome to see you here all on this side of the world, halfway across the world, more than the pond. Hello, Roosevelt from South Carolina. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Irene says all is okay. That's awesome. Teresa, as I said, is here from New Jersey, and she wanted everybody to know because she capitalized it. And then Bev Pam has asked, what is the difference between the curved 4D and the flat? I have the flat. Excellent question. So that's more of a different feature again than related to movement type, but the curved wasn't a scientific thing. Again, it came later in the home market as demand, and I want this and I want that. So curved is unique to oscillating movement. So it's the teeter-totter side. I don't think I've seen a vertical that it wouldn't make sense. But it presents a little bit more resistance. You have to, in order to keep good alignment and good posture, your muscles have to work a little harder. So I generally I prefer a flatter plate surface. It's more functional. Most of my stuff is, sort of a little bit of fitness and a lot of way below baseline. If you're super athletic, you're really conditioned, and you want something that's going to kick your butt, and you want the additional challenge, I recommend the curved. But for the most part, again, I would say 70 to 80% of my users go with a flat surface. A couple of models people don't always think about with Lifepro. A lot of times I'm using the Plus because it's got that flat plate surface. The Relaxa Vibe is also a really good choice. It's what I refer to as functional furniture. If you got a little bit more real estate, you want it in the living room, but you don't want to be moving it around. The Rumblex tend to be a little bigger. They've got more options, therefore more components, so they're heavier. The Relaxivibe is the largest plate surface, but it is flat. The 4D, there's a smaller one that's got lights on the ends. And there's a model that a lot of people don't talk about, which is the Max. And I think it doesn't come up on the website display in the same fashion, maybe because it's a newer model, but it's pretty slick. It's got a simple flat plate surface. It's a little less expensive than the Plus, and it's about the same size. I think maybe a couple pounds lighter, but it doesn't have the markers. Some people don't like the round ridges or the discs, and then it tends to have more of a flat surface. And I've got a few members using and loving that plate. It was launched as a higher capacity model at 500. If you search Max on Lifepro's website, you'll see it. Just another option to consider, because there's some really good prices on right now, up to 30% site-wide with Lifepro. Because you know what? It's that time of year where we all got to get back at it. I know many of you have returned to school last month. We got back at it this week where I'm at up in Canada. So, you know, when our kids get back in routine, we got to set the example and do our own thing too. So thank you for joining me today. Again, I want to stress one is not better. The main goal with your vibration plate, whether you're considering one, whether you've got one in your living room now, it is that time of year where it's easy to get those habits churning again, get back into the routine, and start simple. If you haven't used your plate in a while, regardless of what plate movement type you may be using, ease back into it, keep that intensity and time shorter, and use it more often to give you that energy boost, help you with restless leg, whatever you might be dealing with. And if you're a new user, you've committed to getting started, give your body some time to get used to this very capable therapy / activity. Sometimes we forget how much, even though these are like marketed as a less time, I've got people that have had it 2 days and they're already wanting to go an hour. I know it feels great while you're using it, but sometimes you don't realize how much activity your muscles are being engaged upon until a couple days after the fact. So I don't want you overdoing it, and it's easy to do. So thank you for joining me today. I will post a link to some of my more popular and some of my more recommended sessions if you're just getting started. If you are considering a plate, like I say, there's 30% off with Lifepro right now in the US. On some better deals on some actually too. And also available on Amazon in Canada, the States, the UK, many places of Europe. It's kind of hard to keep track on the reach. So thank you for joining me today. Hello, Jen from Bucks County, PA. If you're typing away right now and trying to ask me a question, you must be, to join me live and ask a question, you must be on the Lifepro Fitness main Facebook page. And if you're watching this on YouTube or on a recorded basis, I do check comments, but know that it is pre-recorded. So sometimes people are like, Debby, you're not answering me. But if you are typing a comment and you don't see it appearing here, it may be in a group that I've shared this to or someone else has shared. Never hesitate to ask me a question if you're watching this later on a recorded basis, or just maybe think of something after the fact. Tag me at Debby with a Y. A notification will certainly land in my inbox that way, versus sometimes if you just make a comment and the convo gets going, I don't always get the notification. So tag me at Debby with a Y. I will also be live this Saturday for those of you who are getting started, or maybe you just need a big kick in the butt. It's my first Saturday of every month orientation crash course, which is going to be a little more complicated. I'm going to do both vertical and oscillating this week because Lifepro has launched the new Vibra Voice. Haven't mastered it yet, but I know many of you have considered it and have questions about it. So I'm going to put the Vibra Voice side by side with the Vibra Pulse, or maybe the new Cosmo plate. I'm going to have an example of each. A lot of the way that you use vibration plate movements, the moves can be the same, but the settings, the nuances, the things to know, there's some tips I'm going to share with you on Saturday. So join me at, I think I've got it booked for 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. go in and select going or interested. You'll see that in the events now, and bring your questions forward at that time. I look forward to joining you guys on Saturday. We're going to do a few more moves, and I'll do a bit more butt kicking on Saturday's crash course. So have a great rest of your week. And thank you for joining me on a Thursday, guys.